Hello, I'm Kads and welcome to today's video. So today's video is quite important for those of us free-to-play players because we're going to be talking about the power of preparation in respect to fusions in the champ chase that's going on right now for Gnut. So the Gnut fusion is basically coming to a close. You can see here that I have prepared all of the forest rares and I have 3 of the void rares, and obviously we're going to get the last one from the champion chase. But this champion chase is probably the reason that a lot of people were slightly taken aback by the milestone required for the fusion. If we take a little trip down memory lane here looking at previous fusions, it is worth noting that majority of the time the fusion rare in the champ chase is worth 2,500 points. We didn't have one for Loriaka, but that was the case for Jetney, that was the case for Razelvarg. But there is precedent for the 3,200 value, and that was back with Supreme El Hain. Now this one was a little bit more special and probably a little bit less noted because it was going on during, I believe, the 4th anniversary event type stuff. And so there was actually a super summon weekend where we had 2x voids, 2x voids, 2x sacreds, and 2 times ancients, each of the days during that weekend. And so there was more opportunity to be able to pull whatever shard type you wanted and still be able to get to that point. However, in that particular instance, because I didn't want to participate in that in particular, I opted to max out the summon rush, so I spent more sacreds there. It was cheaper overall. And then I think I pulled like 10 ancients because I was a little either lazy or starved for time. I think I might have been traveling at that time, so I just didn't have time to pull like 500 mystery shards or whatever, and so I pulled 10 ancients just to make that a bit easier. But I digress. The main point here is that majority of the time, and we can go even further back all the way even to Python, who was a relatively hard fragment summon to get, he was still back there at 2,500 for the champion chase. So although 3,200 is relatively high, it is not outside of the realm of possibility, and I think it's important to note that essentially it's about 700 points higher. But if you were paying attention to myself or other content creators who kept saying that you should probably save all the fusion rares for the fusion epics so that you can get the points during this exact champ chase, then roughly speaking, you would have to pull the same amount of shards as normal, and then fusing all 3 of those epics, which would give you 750 points, would take you over the line from the 2,500 to this 3,200 mark. Now, of course, it would be more ideal if that 750 went towards the 2,500 just to make it easier, but my point is, if you were prepared enough to do either scenario, then it wouldn't really have changed anything overall. With all that said, though, the crux of this video is showing you guys the power of preparedness, meaning that you can really do a lot of these champion chases without pulling many, if any, shards at all. As you may have noticed, we already had 200 and some change points in the champion chase already, and that's predominantly because of the champion training, so a little bit from pulling some mystery shards, but also from getting the rares and uncommons from the campaign. But now we're going to take a look at everything else I set up for this champion chase. As I mentioned in my fusion plan video, I did have a couple of Relic Keeper champions to work on, and so those are fully ready to go as far as getting them to level 40 and ascended. So we have 2 Relic Keepers to fuse, and that is worth 500 points or 250 points per non-void epic. But I've also been working pretty hard on some Broadmaws, and so we have 4 copies of Broadmaw, which is worth 1,400 points or 350 per void epic, which brings our total up to 1,900 points in terms of the champion chase. But hold on, we're not done. Like I mentioned earlier, we do also have all of the rares for the fusion, all of the force rares for the fusion. So we have 3 more epics to fuse, and they are all worth 250 points, so another 750 points. So that brings us to a grand total of 2,650 points just from fusion champions alone. Now, it is worth noting that these fusions per se are not free, so they do cost a silver amount in order to fuse them. So we can do Broadmaw here as an example, and he will cost you a whopping 1 million silver, so it'll be 4 million silver to do 4 copies. But it is much cheaper to do the Relic Keeper as well as the fusion epics. Those cost around 300k per, so it's not free, but in terms of saving you sacred shards, I think it's definitely worth it to trade silver for sacred shards, in my opinion. So after that hefty chunk of silver, you can now see that we have fused all the champions we possibly could towards this fusion and the champion chase. If you guys were curious about how I acquired all of these champions, generally speaking, I just wait until I get copies of Justiciar from Void Shards, but you can farm him from all the farmable rares in the campaign if you really wanted to work on it, as well as the other 3 rares here are also from campaign. So Relic Keeper can be fused entirely just from running campaign on the respective stages to get all these rares and take them up to level 40. Broadmaw is a little bit different, so you have the same thing where you can fuse 2 of them. They're fused by using uncommons that you can get from mystery shards, and they all have the little fusion symbol. But unfortunately for Huntress as well as Bloodhorn, I think is his name. Both of them have to be obtained from void shards as well. So what I typically do, because I'm relatively lazy and I don't want to do a bunch of different campaign stages, is if I'm working on relic keepers, I just save these rares that I get from ancient shards, as well as to save the Justiciars from the void shards. And then for Broadmaw, I will fuse the rares here if I need to, but I basically just wait until I get enough huntresses to match the sets. So now let's hop over to the Champion Chase tournament just to make sure that our math is correct. So if we hop in here, we got a bunch of red dots. We should see that we should be around 2,800 and something points. There you go, 2,867. So this number is quite important because, like I said, typically for fusions, the requirement is around 2,500. And so if it was 2,500, we'd be done. 0 sacreds have been used in the entire making of this fusion, and we're off to a great start. But of course, this requirement is 3,200. So for that, we're a little bit shy. But for something like this, if I was just going for the sake of the fusion, then I would just do the rest with mystery shards, as well as continuing to run and get champions from the campaign. So this just goes to show you what you can do even on a free-to-play account to get some relatively high amounts of champion chase points without having to pull a single sacred or void shard. Another tool that we could use that I have not displayed in this video is using previous fragment summon champions. So I could summon a couple of epics here, that would be 500 points, we're about 400 short of the rare, or I could just summon one of the legendaries, that's 500 points, or even one of the void legendaries for 650 points, previous fusions and whatnot. So any of those knobs can be turned if I really needed to, and I wanted to avoid pulling a bunch of mystery shards in order to get this fusion rare. So with all that said and done, for myself in particular, I am in a fairly unique situation. As you can see here, I do have a decent amount of sacred shards overall, and I happen to have not pulled in a 2-time sacred for a while. The last one was during a Deck of Fate event, which I was not a fan of, because even though they had decent rewards once you flip the cards, you basically had to go all in to guarantee that you get the rewards, and I'm not a fan of RNG on RNG as far as not knowing exactly how many shards I'd have to pull to get my rewards. So in the interest of not missing another 2-time sacred and waiting another 6 weeks to pull some outside of a fusion summon rush or something like that, we are going to be pulling some sacred shards, but we're going to keep it realistic as always because we are chasing those legendary tomes. Now the first tome from the Champion Chase tournament is a bit higher. Normally it's at around 3,000 points. I think this time it's around 4,300 or so, but the second tome is still at the same place at the top at 5,500. So we're setting our goals on the 5,500 tome. However, there is a 10x going on for Lady of Irith here, who is honestly an epic champion. No offense to her, but I think her kit is more like an epic than a legendary, so I'm not really keen on getting her. Of course, as we've talked about on the channel, getting the 10x champion is like a 6% chance if you get a legendary at all, so it's highly, highly unlikely, but I don't trust RNGs that much, and I feel like the one time I don't think I'm going to get the 10x champion or someone I don't want is the time I'm going to get it. So we are going to wait until tomorrow once the 10x ends, and we are going to pull some sacred shards. But thanks to the power of editing, we're going to time travel to the future where we were ready to pull these shards once the 10x is over. All right, we are back, and it is now the next day. So a quick check-in here as far as the fusion goes. We have prepared all 3 of the epics. There is a champion training event going on, so I made sure to do that, and we are still at the 3 on the void rares here, and we'll be getting the last one from the Champion Chase in this shard pull session. Now, I don't think I pulled that many mystery shards, but I know that I've definitely gotten some of the rares from the campaign. So if we check in on the Champ Chase tournament, I should be maybe closer to 2,900 compared to the 2,800 we were at yesterday. And yeah, okay, even closer to 3,000. If we take a look at my total shard count at the moment, we have 449 on the Ancients, 205 on the Voids, and 68 on the Sacreds. As usual, I do like to pop up my Mercy tracker so you guys can see where I'm at. So we are 5 Sacreds deep, and we have 7 to go until Mercy. I do expect to get a legendary today. It may or may not happen, I guess, but it is a 2x, and I have pretty decent luck with Sacreds overall. So if we do have good fortune, then you guys already know from the wish list we are looking for Xavier Eleanorill, one of the Poison Exploders, a Valkyrie, or a Molly Tankard. And since I also expect to get a decent amount of epics, I'm still hoping for Crown in the Blue for the faction wars, as well as some hard mode Fire Knight stuffs, but also just some Sylvan Watchers because I need them for faction guardians. All right, let's get into the pulls. We've got some space, we've got the cash, and hopefully we've got some pretty juicy luck. Let's get started. So worst case here, we're gonna have to pull about 8 to 10 sacreds to oh, okay, straight in with the legendary. All right, Wither the Crowned. Ooh, that's new. That is new for me. So she is one of the best healers in the game and one of the most annoying champions to go against in the arena because of this ability, which is a massive heal, 30% of her max HP, and it's a full cleanse as well. Obviously, the passive variable, she'll put a continuous heal on the ally with the lowest HP, and then also has activating continuous heal and increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. So really solid support champion, and we'll definitely take that. Leech on the A1 as well, and then this also places a continuous heal. So very solid healer, and wow, we're just kicking straight off with the legendaries, unexpected. But as I was saying, we're gonna have to pull up to 10 sacreds in total just to get the amount of points required to get the second legendary tome at 5,500 points. This definitely helps, so this knocks off 2 instead of 1, and so maximum is now down to 8. So we're looking pretty good so far, and hopefully we can keep the rates going here. So next sacred is going to be probably back into the real realm of the world with an epic, and we have a Masamoto, who I think he has decreased attack. Yeah, an AoE decreased attack, so pretty decent. 3-turn cooldown, but it's not 100% chance. But if you really need it for faction wars, he can definitely help reduce some of the damage, increase defense, and a turn meter fill as well. We're sitting pretty at around 4,000 points, so let's keep it going. 1,500 to go, and let's see what the next sacred has for us today. Looking like another epic, a Doom Priest. That is a dupe, but she is very well known for her passive here, where every turn she'll remove 1 random debuff from all allies, and then a tiny bit of a heal, which is I guess a weak version of continuous heal, 7.5% of their max HP. Super solid champion, but for me it is definitely a dupe. So next sacred shard, that's another 250 in the bank in terms of champion chase points. Another epic, and it is fake Dracomorph, also known as Drake. Unfortunately, unlike his older brother, Drake does not have as much going for him in his kit. He is kind of annoying when he's an enemy. If you have a bunch of low HP targets, he can just kind of keep A1ing them and getting extra turns until everyone's dead. But aside from that, he's really not much of a menace as far as us using him as a champion. So another 2 sacreds in, 4,500 points, 1,000 points to go, so a maximum of 4 sacreds required. Here we go. The next one is going to be probably another epic. Yes. And it is Steel Skull. Pretty decent champion, good support for faction wars. He does have the single person or single target heal here, 40% of their max HP, and then he has the AoE heal here, but 20%, and then increased defense. Unfortunately, it's on a 4-turn cooldown, but I still use him in my faction wars team as my primary healer, and he definitely does the job. Moving on, next we are going to have a legendary question mark? No, an epic. And it is Lady Atessa, one of the weakest and worst ally attack champions in the game. You get only 2 random allies on a 4-turn cooldown, which is just absolutely brutal, especially when you have like a Ferric in the Fat who at least sends 3 allies to attack. So not much to say about her. And next we're going to have a legendary to make it a clean 55. No, okay. 47, 50, or no, 52, 50. Sorry. There we go. Ultimate Gaelic, a decent but kind of power crept old school AoE HP burner. There's a lot of better options, even in the epic category. So a 4-turn cooldown with a 75% chance across the 2 hits to place the burn. Not really going to cut it in today's day and age. And the final sacred, regardless of what happens, because we will definitely hit the point threshold here. Let's see. Happy lucky go days. No. Another epic. Cried in the blue. No. Mordecai. Speaking of better AoE HP burners, Mordecai is one of the best in the epic category. It is also on a 4-turn cooldown, but it is a place in HP burn, so he is actually affinity friendly. So if you need a spider burner, he is definitely the guy because you could use him on every single stage. And thus ends the champion chase. Let's go into the tournament tab to make sure that my math is correct. We always want to double check to make sure we're not short. And we should be slightly short because I rounded up to 3,000 for simplicity. So we should be just under 5,500. Yes, so about 40 something. So I could definitely do that with mystery shards tonight while I do or continue to wrap up the champion training. But as you can see here, the fusion is now complete effectively because we have the last rare and the bonus tome. Oh, claiming the rare actually gave us 50 points. I forgot about that. And so real time, there we go, 5,500. Totally planned that. Yep, that was all part of the plan. So getting the rare gave us the last amount of points, and we have the last tome there. So the fusion is effectively complete. I just need to spend the rest of the evening working on this rare, getting the last epic, and making the last or taking the last epic all the way up to 50. So despite my characteristic lackluster reaction, I do think I am pretty happy with the Wither of the Crowned. I think she kind of caught me off guard because I was not expecting to get a legendary on that shard there. But nonetheless, pretty happy to have her on my account. Like I said, she is one of the most annoying champions in Arena, but also one of the best healers in the game, just raw healers in the game. So I will definitely be making use of her for myself and my own Arena defenses. Considering the amount of sacreds we pulled today, getting one legendary is basically on rate for the 2x, so I can't really complain. But in the comment section down below, do let me know what you guys were able to get out of your sacreds for this weekend. I'd love to know who you got. As always, if you found this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to hit that subscribe button down below as well for more content just like this one. Thanks for watching and have a good one.